Welcome to the Lexington Selected Yearling Sale. I'm Heather Vitale reporting for Harness Racing Update. It was girl power galore in the first session. But before we dive into which youngsters will be making headlines during day two, we've got some big news from Hanover Shoe Farms and some exciting breaking news about the sport to share with you. Okay, Mark, before I get into the actual questions of this interview, I just want to congratulate you on reigning Hanover last night, $925,000, the Walner filly out of Ramona Hill. You must be thrilled.
It was an exceptional night, and the farm couldn't be happier. The mare was an exceptional individual. We have nothing but hope that Ken Jacobs has a lot of luck with her. Kudos to the staff for preparing her and having her look so great. And when you have a great stallion and a Hamilton winning mare, it's easy to sell those.
Of course, she was consigned and raised by Hanover Shoe Farms, and you are now, earlier in the year, it was announced that you are the new Vice President of Customer Relations. I'm not sure how this happened because I thought you were retired, actually.
That is true. I was retired, and it was shortly after the United States Trotting Association board meeting that Russell and I had a meeting, and he asked if I could help him out at the farm with some items. And it was hard for me to say no to Hanover and no to Russell, so here I am back in action.
For those that don't know you, let's get a quick resume. I know you started out as a trainer, is that correct?
Actually, I started out as a groom, and it's kind of bizarre because my first year full-time as a groom out of college, I groomed the Little Brown Jug winner, Happy Escort, in 1978. I'm aging myself now, I know. But I worked for Bill Poffinger for 4 years, Jerry Silverman, before I opened my own stable. Then I worked at Pompano Park for 14 years as the simulcast director, eventually race secretary, director of racing. And then over 10 years I was with Penn National Gaming. I worked at 7 different racetracks, including opening up and then helping in the construction of Dayton Raceway. So it's been a long journey, over 40 years in the industry, and loved every minute of it.
Quite the accolades right there, right? So we're going to talk about something really, really exciting that's happening in our sport, graded stakes. I just read about that. I mean, this just came out like about a week ago. What does that mean now that there will be graded stakes? And really, how important is it?
Well, again, this was something that about 18 months ago, the breeders and the sales companies really got together and thought that it would be something positive for the industry. Again, Mr. Williams said, well, you look like a good candidate to be the chair of that committee. So I ended up chairing a committee that we put together of 11 individuals to start looking at graded stakes, and took some notes from the thoroughbred industry, had some assistance from people who worked on the thoroughbred side as well. And we feel that it is very important that our industry showcase and promote Grand Circuit racing. And as great as all the sire stakes programs are now, the Grand Circuit still is a very elite program, and we want to make sure people understand that. So by grading those stakes and giving them a G1 or a G2, G3, it brings more attention to the general public, and I think the racetracks have a great opportunity to market their races in that manner. I've talked to several individuals at various racetracks that when they're not racing and they are simulcasting, when they say we're simulcasting the grade 2 from Tampa Bay or the grade X from wherever, their handle goes up as opposed to just saying we're showing the Sam Davis this week, go pick a race. But putting that G in front of it brings people's attention to it. And for the layman, I think that's something that would be beneficial to our industry as well.
Great information. All right, thank you so much. And again, congratulations and continued success with the sale.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Heather.
Now, let's get into the Session 2 festivities at Tipton. The day began with a reception in the Kentucky Room celebrating the Breeders' Crown Charity Challenge, which not only funds local charities but also has brought an incredible amount of awareness to harness racing. In fact, Kevin Atkins, the Chief Development Officer for Mayor Gordon, was in attendance to accept a $15,000 check for the University of Kentucky Children's Hospital. From the Breeders' Crown Charity Challenge team, including owner Marvin Katz, who is the creator of the Charity Challenge. After the reception, 8 breedings to top standardbred stallions were auctioned off with a total of $203,000 being raised for charity. Thank you to all of the farms who donated, all the bidders, and best of luck to the winners. Then it was time for our yearlings to take center stage. Like last night, there were trotting fillies popping up with a big price. Hip number 149, Ke Bella, is a first foal of New Wave consigned by Kentuckiana Farms. The daughter of bar hopping was signed for by Andrew Harris for Bill Pollock with a price of $400,000. With hip number 201, we saw a bar hopping filly consigned by Kentuckiana Farms, sold for $425,000. Jennifer Palema was signed for by Aki Svanstedt for Bender, Sweden. Aki also bought several for himself, including Rambo Hanover, wearing hip number 179. The Muscle Hill Colt is the first foal of Riding High. He was consigned by Hanover Shoe Farms and sold for $385,000. And a son of Walner showed up with a price of $300,000. Hip number 211, named George Street, was consigned by Preferred Equine. And we pulled over the winning bidder, Scott Dillon, to learn more about this owner and what drew him to this colt. Scott, $300,000 is an impressive price. Tell me about George Street. Why did you like him?
Well, George Street comes from a very good family. I looked at the brother to it last year, nothing I was really interested in, and this one just really looked apart to us, and so we decided, all right, we'll take a swing at this one and try to buy him. So, but our first attention is that he's Jersey bred, Kentucky bred, and he's Massachusetts bred, so we felt we had a lot of options with him to make money, so.
Now, you're actually living in Maine. You're from Maine, right? And you have a farm up there. So now what happens? Do you actually take George Street to Maine?
No, George Street's not coming to Maine. I'm hoping George Street is going to Florida with Ronnie. And so then hopefully, he goes up to New Jersey, qualifies well up the Gateway and gets to the races and races well in New Jersey, Kentucky, and last resort will be Massachusetts. So.
But you do have horses that you actually have at your farm, right?
Yes, we
okay.
do. Yes.
So talk about that, because you've got brood mares and do you do the foaling? I got to know more information.
Sure. We generally at our farm in Maine have 2 to 4 mares there, and we generally foal them out in Massachusetts, then we reship them up to Maine, and we get them bred up there and just do the whole cycle again. They'll end up down to Ronnie's in Florida during in the fall, and Ronnie will bring them up, get them qualified, and then he'll decide where we're going to be racing them. And like I said, generally those are mass breds, so we generally go up to Massachusetts with those in the fall. After, the great thing with Massachusetts is that they'll stake race in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and Kentucky, but all those races are all done with when Massachusetts starts.
And you have a very special broodmare in your band, right? Blue Diamond Eyes. Tell me about her. You actually owned her when she was racing.
Yes, we bought Blue Diamond Eyes here a few years ago. She was under a different name, and my dad and I were excited to buy her. And we changed the name to Blue Diamond Eyes because my youngest daughter has the bluest eyes in the world. And there's this country song that's out at the time, and it has a line in it, Blue Diamond Eyes, and I'm like, oh, that just sits perfect. And she worked out to be a wonderful, wonderful mare for us. So.
Now let's talk about the relationship with your dad, because he was like in racing and you were in racing, but you guys were together. Like now you are. This is like a really cool father-son thing that you guys are doing.
Yeah, so my dad and I, we have a logging business back at home. We're partners on it. And so I was always into buying the claimers and the overnight racing. Jason Bartlett used to train for me in Maine, trained for me in New York. We had a really good run. And he just liked driving more and training, so I had to find different trainers. So I ended up with Josh Green for a long period of time. And my dad, he had bought our first horse. He bought his first horse in 1982 or 3. Started with a 3-claimer, and then he soon got into the yearling business with a guy named Don Richards up there. So he always, when he bought yearlings, then he developed a relationship with Jimmy Doherty, and Jimmy trained for us for years. And then when he got sick, we had to find new trainers, so they started doing business with Jonas Cesarian. And we had some pretty good horses there with Hot Shot Blue Chip and Seaside. So that was going on, and what ended up happening is like I was in the Yale game a little bit, but I want to get rid of the overnight. So him and I became partners in the race in the yearlings. So we do it together now. So
That's so super cool. All right. Well, best of luck with George Street. And George Strait is the king of country, so maybe George Street will be the king of harness racing.
Well, we'll keep the name. I like the name a lot. So
I do too. I'm so glad that you're doing that.
I do like the name a lot. Sometimes we change it, but I do like that name a lot. So we're going to keep it, and we're going to let Ronnie do his thing.
While the Trotters had lots of heads turning and hands going up, it was a pacer by the great sire Bettor's Delight who brought over $500,000. Hip number 267, named Naughty Beauty, brought $550,000. The filly was consigned by Hunterton Farms and signed for by Andrew Harris, who actually was the leading buyer during the first session of the sale. David, I want to start out by saying that in this segment, I actually interviewed a guy named Scott Dillon who bought a horse named George Street, and the dam is named Sweet Shirley May, and I think you know a little bit about this horse.
Yeah, actually, it's a partnership with Lindy Farms from Lindy Market Stable, which is myself and my mom. Her name was Shirley May, and she was a sweet lady, and we named a thoroughbred there a few years ago, Sweet Shirley May, and it worked out for us. And actually, Frank the Elder said, I'm going to name one for you this year, or the year that we were naming the foals, and that was Sweet Shirley May. And I was happy to see it go to a good home, and it's going to be trained by Ronnie, I would assume. I didn't ask, but I assume it's tri-eligible, which is good because Mr. Dillon has done well with those before. And we have a little house in Saratoga named George Street, so it's kind of like a little home thing back there. But it was good. It was a nice, nice price, but he was a very nice horse as well. So the mare had a lot of ability, and the family's there to back it up. So I was happy to see that happen.
Yeah, and of course, he is a trotter, and the trotters were really blowing up the board again. But we had that $550,000 Bettor's Delight filly. We had a $350,000 Bulldog Hanover, $350,000 Down by the Seaside. So the Pacers did well.
Pacers did well. I was happy to see. Listen, that family of Jim Averett and Hunterton Farm has been a nice asset for them to own over the years, and it's a proven family, and it comes back and it keeps producing, and it was very good to see that. I was very happy to see Sealster Farms, going back to Preferred Equine. We represent a lot of breeders, and they're one of the leading breeders in Ontario, and the first year Bulldogs, and kind of through the dialogue, throughout the course of the year, they wanted to have some down here for to represent them. And we had a colt in the first night that maybe just fell under the radar a little bit, but we kicked out with a nice filly today, and the colt selling today to Brad Grant. We had a good bidding war there as well for that. So for him to sell for $350 was a great thing. And Down by the Seaside, we were approached last year by some consigners that maybe we should filter in a few Down by the Seasides earlier. We're going to have a strong representation of them on Friday, but so we wanted to try that, and we're happy to see the results of that as well, because he's a tremendous sire within his own right, and I was happy to see the results for sure.
Okay, so numbers overall. You want to give me a few?
Yeah, so our average is up. We sold a few less horses today than we did last year, and we were kind of conscious of that as we talk about at the end of the wrap-up when we get to the end of the week. We really look back and try to try to see, hey, how can we improve the experience for everybody and try to achieve the same results. But so the average is up over last year, which is pretty impressive. It's just up marginally, but very healthy gross, and through 344 horses, I think we're averaging 120 something thousand. So I think the marketplace is healthy. I think it's a great sign for the industry. A lot of participants at all levels, and day 2's over, and tomorrow's day 3, and I said it last night, and it's proven that there's still a lot of nice horses here, and evident of today. I'm not sure how many horses we sold for over 100,000, but there was a lot of them, and we're coming back here tomorrow and rock and roll tomorrow one more day, and then just keep cranking.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you guys for all your coverage. Appreciate it.
We have just scratched the surface of this 7-hour sale. So for complete coverage, you can always go to harnessracingupdate.com and, of course, to LexingtonSelected.com, where you can actually watch the auction online and bid online. Thanks for joining me. I will see you again tomorrow. I'm Heather Vitale for HRU.